You know what they say? You only get one chance to make a first impression.
Exactly.
And that's true for websites, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's why today we're going to deep dive into custom domains.
Yeah, very nice.
Ditching that generic website address, you know.
Right.
And making your online project look way more professional.
It's like night and day.
It is.
Huge difference.
So we're using this YouTube tutorial by Akanmu Akinkunmi Joseph.
Okay.
And he's a full-stack developer, so he really knows his stuff.
Yeah.
What's cool is that he found this clever trick using a free service that most people don't even know about to get a secure custom domain up and running.
Interesting.
So let's jump into his process and see what we can learn.
Oh, that's good.
So Akanmu is very open about this not being a quick process.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He mentions in his tutorial, it took him weeks to figure this out. Weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hopefully our deep dive is going to be a shortcut for people.
Definitely no weeks of frustration required. So he starts by talking about his basic setup.
Okay.
He bought his domain from TrueHost, but uses Vercel for hosting.
And that right there, that might be confusing for some people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have heard of TrueHost and Vercel.
Right.
But might not know what they actually do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so think of it this way.
Okay.
You want to build a house, right?
Okay.
First, you buy a plot of land.
Okay.
That's your domain name.
Got it.
And the real estate agent who helps you buy it is the domain registrar.
Okay.
So that would be like TrueHost in this case.
Okay.
But then you still need someone to actually build the house.
Right.
That's your hosting provider, like Vercel. They give you the space and tools to actually make the website.
So TrueHost is like the address, and Vercel is the actual space
precisely
to build the website.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Now, this is where Akanmu runs into a problem.
Okay.
TrueHost, his domain registrar, didn't automatically give him an SSL certificate.
And that's important.
Which is super important these days for security.
Right.
For your website.
So did TrueHost offer any solutions?
They might have, but Akanmu found something else.
Okay.
He used a free DNS hosting service called Gcore Labs.
Gcore Labs, okay.
And it gave him more control and flexibility,
Gotcha.
Including that SSL certificate without extra costs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with them at all.
Okay.
What is DNS hosting?
All right, so DNS, or domain name system,
okay.
Think of it like a giant phone book for the internet.
Okay.
When you type a web address into your browser, DNS translates that human-readable name, like google.com, into a numerical IP address that computers use to find each other online.
Interesting.
So he's using this free service to work around a problem that his paid services wouldn't just do automatically.
Wow, that's clever.
It is.
Okay, I'm ready to hear how he actually did this. So what were the steps involved?
It's actually simpler than it sounds.
Okay.
The first step is getting something called name servers.
Name servers?
It's from Gcore Labs.
Okay.
These are instructions that tell the internet where to find your website. It's like a set of directions.
Okay.
So he gets these name servers from Gcore Labs, goes into his TrueHost settings, and tells TrueHost to use those new name servers.
Got it.
It's like changing the forwarding address for his website.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, he has to tell Vercel about the new custom domain.
So he's kind of letting everybody know about this new domain name.
Exactly.
But how does that make the website secure?
So now we go back to Gcore Labs.
Okay.
And we have to add a few more instructions called DNS records.
Okay, you mentioned those earlier.
Yeah.
DNS records.
These act like very detailed signposts, making sure everything is connected properly.
Okay.
There's the A record, which points to the server, where his website files are stored.
Okay.
The CNAME record, which connects his custom domain to his Vercel project.
Right.
And most importantly, the CA record.
Okay.
That's how he gets the SSL certificate for a secure connection.
And that's what gives you the little padlock in your browser.
Exactly.
That tells you the website's safe.
It signifies that the connection between your browser and the website is encrypted.
Oh, wow.
And it protects any sensitive information that you might enter.
Right.
Like passwords or credit card details.
I had no idea there were so many parts to setting up a website.
Yeah.
It's like a whole ecosystem of services working together.
Absolutely.
That I'm just realizing.
That even though it might seem kind of complex at first glance, understanding the basics of how these things interact can be really empowering.
Okay.
It lets you make more informed choices.
Okay.
Even if you're not comfortable handling all the technical parts yourself.
Okay, so speaking of understanding how things work, I have a question about DNS.
Okay.
You said it's like a phone book for the internet.
Right.
Connecting domain names to IP addresses. But aren't IP addresses already unique?
They are.
Why do we even need the domain name on top of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're right. IP addresses are unique. It's like a digital fingerprint for every device on the internet.
Okay.
But imagine if you had to remember a long string of numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Like 172.217.160.142.
No way.
Instead of Google.com.
Yeah, that's way easier to remember.
Exactly. Domain names are much more human-friendly, you know?
Yeah.
It makes it much easier for us to navigate the internet.
So it's like a nickname, basically.
Exactly. It's a friendly nickname for those complicated IP addresses.
Gotcha.
And DNS is the translator between the two.
Okay, so DNS is making sure we end up at the right website.
Exactly.
Even though we just typed in this easy-to-remember name.
Right.
Okay, so let me just recap to make sure I'm following.
Okay.
So we've got the domain registrar like TrueHost, where you buy the domain name. Then the hosting provider like Vercel, where you actually build the website. And then this DNS service, which can be separate like G-Core Labs.
Right.
That's connecting the domain name to the IP address.
You got it.
Wow. So many moving parts.
There are, but what's interesting is that a lot of times these services are bundled together.
Oh, okay.
But you can separate them out.
Like Akanmu did.
Exactly. And that can give you more control and potentially save you money.
And in this case, he got that SSL certificate for free.
Yeah, which is a big win.
It is.
So yeah, knowing how these pieces work can really give you an advantage.
Okay, so we talked about what he did and why he did it.
Right.
Now I want to go back to the how for a minute.
Okay.
You mentioned A records and CNAV records and CA records.
Yes, those are different types of DNS records.
Can you break those down a little bit more?
So basically these records are instructions within the DNS system.
Okay.
The A record links your domain name to the IP address of your server.
Okay, so that's where the website files are actually stored.
Exactly.
So it's like saying, if you want this website, go to this IP address.
That's it.
Gotcha.
Now, the CNAME record is a little different.
Okay.
That creates an alias for your domain name.
Okay.
So in this case, Akanmu is using it to point his custom domain to his Vercel project.
So it's like saying this custom domain is just another name for this Vercel project.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then finally, you have the CA record.
Okay.
And that's specifically for SSL certificates.
Right. So that's what makes the website secure and gives you that little padlock icon.
Exactly. It tells the internet where to find the information to verify that your SSL certificate is legitimate.
Wow. This is really complicated.
It can seem that way, but it's like anything else. The more you learn about it, the less intimidating it becomes.
So Akanmu, he got his name servers from G-Core Labs.
Right.
Updated his domain settings in TrueHost.
Yeah.
Added his custom domain in Vercel. And then went back to G-Core Labs to add those DNS records.
All those different records, the A record, the CNAME record, and the CA record.
Just to get a free SSL certificate.
It's quite a journey.
It is, and it seems like a lot of work.
It definitely can be, but it also shows you that sometimes you have to think outside the box. And that the most obvious solution isn't always the best one.
Totally. So Akanmu, he used G-Core Labs.
Right.
Basically to work around the limitations of TrueHost.
And get that free SSL certificate.
That's pretty ingenious.
It is.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder.
If his goal was to get that SSL certificate for free.
Right.
Were there other ways to do that?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Akanmu's way definitely gives you more control.
Right.
And flexibility, but it's a lot of steps.
Yeah.
If you just want the SSL certificate, some hosting providers just give it to you automatically.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And even TrueHost might have had an option to just buy one.
So he kind of went the long way around.
He did.
But he learned a lot, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
By doing it that way.
And it's all about what works for you, right?
Yeah.
If you need that level of control. And you like diving into the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Akanmu's approach is great.
Yeah.
But if you just want to get things done quickly,
yeah,
there might be easier ways.
Makes sense.
It's all about knowing your options
and
what's best for your situation.
So at the end of the day, I think the big takeaway for me
is
that this stuff doesn't have to be as intimidating as it seems.
Yeah, it can seem really scary at first.
It does.
But once you start to learn how all these pieces fit together, it's like, oh, okay.
It's manageable.
Yeah, and you realize you have more control than you think.
And you don't have to be a total tech whiz to do it.
Exactly. You can set up a custom domain.
Yeah.
You can get that SSL certificate.
Right.
And you can make your website look professional and trustworthy.
Without having to spend weeks figuring it out.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for walking us through all this.
It was my pleasure.
This is a great deep dive.
It was fun.
Yeah. And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring and keep learning.
Yeah. And never be afraid to ask questions.
Absolutely.
There's so many resources available.
There are.
And people who are willing to help.
No. So until next time.
Happy domaining.